Jack Dorsey was born on November 19, 1976, in St. Louis, Missouri, as the oldest of three boys. He had a speech impediment and struggled to communicate with family and classmates. Jack was unable to say more than one syllable at a time. Later, he described his difficulties, saying, "I could pronounce words in my head, but they would just not come out." Jack's parents took him to speech therapy, and after 2 years, he improved greatly. Though he overcame his speech impediment, it left an effect on the way he communicated. Jack became very reserved. He was more often the listener and observer, and he couldn't help but overanalyze himself when he spoke. Jack's family moved a lot while he was growing up. His father, Tim, was an engineer who specialized in medical devices and changed jobs often. Marcia, Jack's mother, was a stay-at-home mom who later opened a coffee shop. Because of his father's job, Jack had an early introduction to computers. A bit of a loner growing up, Jack was quite taken with computers. Instead of wanting action figures or toys, he wanted new technologies. At 8 years old, his father bought him his first computer, an IBM PC Junior. Jack learned to speak in code. 3 years later, Jack got a Macintosh. By the time he was a teenager, he had taught himself how to build computer programs and was helping Tim with work projects. Jack was also drawn to maps, city planning, and how people and cities were connected in real time. He followed the movement of police and emergency cars using a program he made himself. He listened to a police scanner and noticed the way people spoke to convey information. They updated each other often and used code to communicate in a short time. Jack got his first job in the field when he was only 15 years old. He was a programmer at Mira Digital Publishing, owned by Jim McKelvey. Unpopular at school, he found immediate success in the workforce. At Mira, Jack soon earned himself a reputation for hard work, efficiency, and perfectionism. When he was still an intern, he was managing people who were twice his age. Jim even referred to himself as the assistant to the summer intern because Jack was so valuable. When Jack turned 16, he became interested in logistic dispatching and tried to start his own business, a bike messenger service. There wasn't very much demand for bicycle couriers in St. Louis, but Jack got to practice writing code, and he learned a lot about dispatch. After high school, Jack enrolled in the Missouri University of Science and Technology and majored in computer science and math. While in college, Jack came across a company called Dispatch Management Services. It managed bicycle messengers in New York. He hacked the security system of the company's website to expose its flaws. Jack then found the email of the top manager, Greg Kidd, and told him about the security issue. Though he could have been arrested, Jack was instead offered a job at DMSC. Later that year, Jack left Missouri and transferred to New York University. There, he continued to work for DMSC, but that would soon change. As the internet exploded and was being used on computers all over the world, Jack and Greg tried to convince DMSC to focus on their online presence to no avail. Frustrated, they both ended up leaving the company. Enjoying this story so far? Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get more fascinating stories about today's biggest companies. Around this time, Jack had been working on a courier software that would dispatch taxi and emergency vehicles using the internet. He and Greg decided to move to San Francisco and begin a web-based dispatch company together called DNet. DNet would provide same-day delivery of online purchases. Jack then dropped out of university with only 1 semester left and moved to San Francisco. There, he adopted a new look for himself. He wore dreadlocks that he would dye different bright colors, wore earrings and a nose ring, and got tattoos. Unfortunately, Jack's time at DNet was cut short. The company's CEO fired Jack when they disagreed on business strategy. DNet did not survive for much longer and failed during the internet bubble crash. While this crash was devastating at the time for tech companies and investors, thanks to our sponsor Masterworks, you can protect yourself from the current global downturn by adding contemporary art into your portfolio. Masterworks helps individuals access high-value contemporary art from legends like Picasso, Basquiat, and even Banksy. The platform acquires paintings and securitizes them with SEC, allowing investors to buy shares in artwork and gain potential profit when the painting is sold. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, recently stated that the portfolio of the future should include alternative assets, and their CEO personally recommends contemporary art, saying it's the new gold. So far, Masterworks has sold 6 paintings for an average net return of 29% through COVID-19 and rampant inflation. There's a waitlist to get onto the platform, but you can skip it to join Masterworks by using our link, masterworks.art/hook, or click the link in the description below. And as always, in everything related to investment, tread carefully. Nothing is risk-free. Now, unemployed and with no degree, Jack moved around to a few cities in pursuit of relationships that also fail. Feeling like a complete failure at 26, he made the difficult decision to return home. Back in St. Louis, Jack worked on coding for his father, who had started his own business. Still, he had almost no money to support himself with. He was very fascinated by eBay, but didn't have anything he could sell. Instead, Jack auctioned an offer to read a children's book called Goodnight Moon. He sold his service to 4 people, including one who paid $100. Jack then decided to study botanical illustration and would visit the Missouri Botanical Garden to sketch the plants. His mother, Marcia, liked to paint, and Jack was also an artist. But he realized he couldn't make a living this way and turned to an unexpected career path. Jack's wrists were in pain from years of programming. He was developing RSI, repetitive strain injury. He tried using special keyboards that reduced finger movement, but they didn't help much. Jack was suffering from carpal tunnel and needed relief. One of his friends suggested that he get a massage. Not one to do anything halfway, Jack learned how to give massages as well. He wanted to understand the theory and the practice. Jack wound up studying 1,000 hours of massage therapy training and got his license. Eventually, Jack planned to start a chair massage service in San Francisco. His specialty would be that he gave massages to programmers. He could give them massage therapy and also speak to them about their coding issues. But when Jack returned to San Francisco, he found the city was full of massage therapists and gave up on the idea. Jack then reconnected with Greg and started babysitting his daughter in exchange for room and board. By night, he returned to coding and ultimately decided to re-enter the field. His dream was to one day work at a real tech startup. While in search of opportunities, Jack ended up working as a coder for a ferry company. Their ticketing program needed to be updated and made more secure. His employer was unimpressed with Jack's look and told him to take out his nose ring at work. Instead of removing it, Jack wore a band-aid to cover it in protest. He didn't agree with changing his personal choices for his employer. After the gig ended, Jack took up an artistic pursuit again and went into fashion design. He took a fashion class, studied figure drawing, and designed denim and a few skirts. But fashion remained a hobby, and Jack refocused on a career in programming. One of his issues was that he found it difficult to work for products and companies that he wasn't passionate about. Around this time, Jack would often sit at cafes, and particularly liked to sit by the window of one, letting the world pass him by. Jack was frustrated with where he was in life. He wasn't working in an exciting startup like he hoped, and was wondering what options he had. Sitting in that cafe one day, Jack saw someone familiar walk by the window. Jack had never met the man, a well-known internet entrepreneur, but he'd read many stories about him. As fate would have it, the man walked right into the cafe. If he hadn't, Twitter might never have been created. The Twitter founding team seemed to come together by luck and chance. They experienced similarities in their upbringings. None of them quite fit into their surroundings while growing up. All of them were college dropouts. They shared a relentless drive to pursue their dreams. Evan Williams, known as Ev, was raised by farmers. As a kid, he was a shy daydreamer and an outsider. The guys around him loved to hunt, fish, and shoot guns, but Ev was different. He would sketch ideas for video games, take apart and reassemble his bike, and dream about buying a computer one day. After he moved to California and learned how to write code, Ev created Blogger while working in a startup. Blogger spread in the tech community, then grew out to the rest of the world. Though his product was popular, Ev was so broke he was barely managing to eat. Blogger reached 1 million users and there was considerable buzz surrounding Ev. He was even featured in Forbes magazine. Noah Glass was also considered unusual by people who met him. He was born in Northern California in a rundown house next to a shabby barn where a hippie commune lived, including his mother. His father went out to get milk shortly after Noah was born and never came back. Noah ended up living with his grandparents and left the commune at an early age. He was a gentle and artistic spirit who was full of energy. Noah moved quickly and jumped from thought to thought. Once, he was even arrested because the police thought he was under the influence of drugs. After multiple tests and an overnight stay, they discovered that was just the way Noah was. One morning, Noah picked up an issue of Forbes magazine and almost fell over. There was a picture of Ev in front of a computer with a distinctive orange Blogger sticker. In the background, a window showed the kitchen of another apartment, the very same apartment Noah was standing in. They were neighbors. Noah jumped up and went to his balcony, calling out to Ev to introduce himself. The two became good friends. Noah was also in the tech world and was working on a pirate radio project that would allow anyone to set up a radio station without a license. For Ev, Blogger became big enough to get the attention of Google and they bought it from him for millions of dollars. Ev became one of the Silicon Valley tech entrepreneurs that so many people longed to be. Inspired by Blogger, Noah adapted his pirate radio project to an audio blog service. It would allow people to create and share podcasts with ease. He asked Ev to consider investing in the business. Though Ev was hesitant to work with friends at first, he eventually agreed. They named the startup Odeo. Later that year, it was Ev who entered the cafe Jack was sitting in. It was like a sign from the universe. Jack immediately searched for Evan's email and sent him a resume. He mentioned that he had seen Ev at a cafe and asked whether he was hiring. Jack secured an interview with Ev and Noah and was soon working at Odeo. The final piece of the Twitter founding team was Biz Stone. Though Biz came from a wealthy Boston neighborhood, he grew up on food stamps. His mother had several kids to care for, and his father, a hot-tempered drinker, wasn't around often. Biz's mother would sell their house every few years, downgrading and using the sale money to pay bills. So, as Biz grew bigger, his houses grew smaller. His childhood best friend had a computer in his home, and he spent most of his time there playing video games. As a young adult, Biz worked at a blogging network called Zanga. But Biz decided to quit after discovering the company was profiting off private data from users under the age of 13 without their parents' consent. He sent a cold email reaching out to Ev, hoping to work at Google as part of Blogger. After some back and forth, Biz got the job and moved from the East Coast to California. When Ev left Google to work on his own projects, including Odeo, Biz quit the next year and followed him. The future Twitter founders were now assembled within Odeo, but their dream of being the first tech company to occupy the podcast space was short-lived. Apple released its latest iPod, and with it came a crushing blow to Odeo. Apple would be adding podcasts to the services offered on iTunes. Odeo was dead in the water. Once again, a discouraged Jack began to think of other career paths. Again and again, he had failed in the tech industry. He confessed to Noah one night that he wanted to leave Odeo, quit tech and go into fashion design. Odeo had fallen apart. Noah and Ev were constantly at odds. Ev saw Odeo as a dead end, and he wanted to put the whole experience behind him. Noah was trying to salvage their efforts by pivoting to a new idea. Noah asked Jack what ideas he might have. Jack thought hard about his various schemes throughout the years. His interest in the way people connect and communicate live updates spanned back to those childhood days, listening to emergency responders on police scanners. He remembered his status idea for real-time networks and told Noah about the concept to share live personal updates. Noah was impressed. Jack and the guys had only learned about SMS or texting the past year. It was a popular way to communicate among teenage girls, but it had not yet reached everyone else's daily lives. Noah and Jack mused about the idea of incorporating text messaging into the website. Noah said it would be a way to share whatever you were up to and stay connected to people no matter how far apart you were. They pitched the idea to the rest of the team the next day. It was in line with conversations the team had since Apple's business-ending announcement. Earlier, Ev had pitched the idea of a messaging platform that friends could follow each other on. But the group didn't know what the purpose of the site would be. What would people write to share with each other? Jack had found the answer. Biz had also pitched the idea of combining phones with the internet and saw a link between his idea and Jack's idea. Long story short, everyone was intrigued. It was Noah who came up with the name Twitter. Ev and Biz suggested that, like a blog, past statuses would stay visible and flow in chronological order. Noah added timestamps and emphasized the potential for human connection using the network. Jack worked hard to get a prototype of the service running within a month. The first tweet ever was Jack sharing his first status update, just setting up my Twitter. For the rest of the day, the Twitter founders and Odeo employees became absorbed with the network. They wrote updates like heading home, in bed reading, and late night at the office. Soon after, tweets were limited to 140 characters to reflect the length of an SMS message and encourage brevity and a sense of speed. Things progressed quickly at the company, but beneath the surface, tensions were simmering. The four co-founders, so alike in some ways, were finding it harder and harder to work together. Noah was struggling in the company. While drinking one night, he leaked Twitter to the press during its secretive early days. He blew up at an Odeo employee for a small mistake. He wanted to oversee Twitter and was constantly trying to convince Jack to leave with him to make it themselves. Finally, he was paranoid that he would be kicked out of the business. Jack found Noah's behavior so chaotic that he gave Ev an ultimatum. Jack wouldn't stay if Noah was here. Ev had no choice but to let go of Noah. Twitter was very slow to grow in the beginning. Many found the tweet character limit made the platform boring. It was not until a year after its launch that the industry recognized its value. At the South by Southwest Festival, Twitter named a handful of people its ambassadors. They displayed their messages on a screen in the lobby of the conference center as a stunt. Afterwards, media blog Gawker declared that Twitter was aflame. Ev named Jack Twitter's first CEO and credits him with the idea of Twitter. Jack had always been a brilliant worker, but he struggled in the new CEO role. Though he was in charge, the employees did whatever they wanted, perhaps because, not too long ago, Jack had been working under all of them at Odeo. Within a year, Twitter had 1.3 million users. In spite of its growth, the site crashed often and struggled to monetize. Ev felt that Jack was failing the company. He was frustrated with the amount of time Jack spent on his hobbies, as Jack would leave early to work on sketching or fashion design. The relationship between them suffered. Twitter's board also doubted Jack's management ability. Jack had been trying to manage the company's finances but was doing the math wrong. He would make major decisions such as putting someone as the head of an entire department without consulting the board members. Things turned bleak for Twitter's first CEO as the board members made up their mind to get rid of Jack. Biz represented Twitter's moral compass. A year before, when the FBI had tried to get the company to reveal people's personal information to investigate crimes, Biz was firm on denying them. When he heard that Ev and the board were thinking of firing Jack, he told them he would quit if they went through with it. Though Biz knew that Jack was in over his head as CEO, he also believed that outright firing him was wrong. Biz had bought Jack some time. Twitter's board told him he had 3 months to right the ship, though they secretly knew that it couldn't be done. Jack found out about his demise by accident. One of the board members accidentally included Jack in an email about their plan to phase him out of the company. With that, Ev became the CEO of Twitter. Jack felt the move was a total betrayal. Though it hurt Jack a lot, he used the setback to motivate himself. He knew he had to prove that he was not some one-hit wonder who had stumbled into a social media phenomenon. He vowed to find a tangible problem that he could tackle, solve, and profit from, and then return to St. Louis to pause and reflect. There, Jack caught up with his former Mira boss, Jim, and decided to start a new company with him. The two wound up creating Square, a tiny credit card reader that could be plugged into an iPhone headphone jack. Unlike other card processors, Square didn't require small businesses earn at least $10,000 to accept credit card payments. Instead, it took a cut of every swipe, 2.75% plus 15 cents, while competitors charged up to 5% plus 10 cents. As Square took off, Jack set his eyes back on Twitter. He was still a member of the board and had been slowly convincing the rest of them that Ev was doing a poor job as CEO. It was working. People thought that Ev, while successful at first, was struggling to manage the company as it grew bigger and bigger. By then, Twitter had well over 100 million users. 3 years after pushing to remove Jack as CEO, Ev himself was removed by Twitter's board. Another executive, Dick Costolo, became CEO and Jack returned to work in the company. Poor Biz never wanted to be involved in boardroom battles. He didn't understand how the corporate guys could throw a co-founder's career away so easily. When he heard that the board wouldn't even let Ev stay on as head of product, he decided enough was enough. Biz angrily told Dick how wrong these decisions were and demanded that Ev be allowed to keep a role in the company. Like he did with Jack, Biz threatened to quit if the plan went through. Unfortunately, once again, Biz only managed to buy his friend a bit of time before his end. Eventually, Biz himself left the company. He didn't have much of a job there anymore, and he felt that the moral culture he had worked to create at Twitter was changing. All of Twitter's founders were gone, at least for now. A few years later, Jack was reappointed as CEO of the company, this time as a permanent position. He now had more experience after building Square and its Cash app. And as the only founder that remained at the company, Jack was a natural choice. Jack was now leading 2 public companies at once. Analysts doubted that he could manage. Being CEO was a large commitment, and Jack was being stretched and pulled in different directions. Still, Jack led Twitter and Square impressively. After he started running Twitter again, its stock increased 70% after 5 years. At the same time, Square's stock increased 14 times since the company went public. While looking back at his bumpy road to success, Jack shared some wisdom. A founder is not a job, it's a role, an attitude, and it's something that can happen again and again and again, and in fact, it has to happen again and again and again. Otherwise, we would not move forward. After 6 years as Twitter CEO, Jack stepped down and made his CTO, Parag Agrawal, his successor. Jack advised that Twitter had to break away from its founding and founders, and that dependence on company founders is severely limiting. Today, Twitter is one of the world's largest social media platforms with over 200 million users, many of which are celebrities, world leaders, and activists who use the platform as a megaphone. This is the story of how a former massage therapist came together with 3 other college dropouts to create one of the world's most vital social networking websites. He was part of several failed ventures but always kept trying again. He pursued his lifelong fascination with live connections and in time, built a company that's now worth billions.
Remember, skip the waiting list for Masterworks by clicking our link, masterworks.art/hook, and start investing in contemporary art today.
For more interesting stories about today's biggest companies, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.